Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for the 4th of July. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice I have a Yankees hat on, and I did not do that on purpose because Dave DuFour and I are here to talk about another team in New York. That's the Knicks. James Edwards III joins us right now. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, James. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Z.
Not too
Good to
bad.
see you. I'm okay.
Okay.
Just,
You've been a little busy.
I can't escape coaching searches.
I know. I'm like, I feel like there's a thing at The Athletic where every time you start covering a league, just prepare for something to change at the helm of that team. Of course, having been at the Detroit Pistons before that.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like I came to New York thinking like, all right, at least my off seasons will for a little bit be all right. But no, after the first year.
They've been so stable, you know, and then they make this conference finals run. And I'm assuming you were as shocked as we are that,
I was surprised
that Tom Thibodeau got fired. How do you feel about Mike Brown? Like them landing on Mike Brown?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good coach. Am I sure he's better than Tibbs? I'm not. And does he need to be better than Tibbs, or does he just need to be different from Tibbs? That's the kind of the thing, right? Like, I think he just needs to be different. I don't know what qualifies as better for a coach, different strokes for different folks. But yeah, I mean, listen, they went into this search wanting somebody with experience. I think that's why somebody like Mike Inori didn't get the job. Even though he has vast experience as an assistant coach, they wanted head coaching experience. And Mike Brown's been to the finals. Mike Brown's coached LeBron and Kobe and Steph. He's been an assistant. He's been fired after a year. He's been fired in the middle of a season. He's turned a franchise around. So in terms of experience, Mike Brown has seen and had it all. And you hear good things about him. Obviously, he's one of those guys who's kind of bounced around a little bit. So you wonder, like, why is that the case? Why did a team like the Lakers hire him one year and then fire him the second year? Why did the Kings fire him after a 48-win season or whatever it was? So you wonder about that stuff, but I don't think anybody would say he's not a good coach. I think the question is whatever he provides significantly different from what Tibbs does, and is that even enough to get over this proverbial hump that they created for themselves? Listen, as it pertains to like the Knicks have to get to the finals, like I understand that, but so much goes into just like making the finals other than being the better basketball team. So yeah, is Mike Brown a failure if somebody injures their ankle next year? They were relatively healthy most of last season.
Mm-hmm. Right. You saw that in Sacramento.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, after the 13-18 start in Sacramento, Mike Brown gets forced out. A lot of folks looking at it like it wasn't a result of Mike Brown being a lesser coach than when he took the same Sacramento Kings, on a really great run the year before. There were injuries. There were, players also weren't playing well. But I want to just tap back into what you were saying, James, about, what Tom Thibodeau does versus what Mike Brown does. We've seen Mike Brown be a head coach. We've also seen him be an assistant coach. And in all those moments, defense was at the core of, what he did and what he did well. Can you lay out a little bit for our listeners, like what was Tom Thibodeau doing that worked well or didn't work well with the Knicks that they think Mike Brown can come in and either change or build upon?
I think the biggest thing is collaboration. That was the one thing that the Knicks were really looking for throughout this search. A guy who was going to assign offense and defensive coordinators, a guy who was going to collaborate with the bench in the front office. I think that was near the very top of their list. I don't know if people know this, and it was the first time I ever saw it. And again, I only covered one team, but I covered 3 or 4 different coaches in those 7 years covering that one team. And I've watched a lot of basketball. If you watch when the Knicks called the timeout, Tibbs never, you know how like coaches will huddle up with their coaches first, and then the team, Tibbs never huddled up with his coaches. I don't know if people ever like caught that or noticed that.
I never noticed that. Wow.
If he did, it was very, very rare, but he pretty much would do his thing, sit down with the players, the coaches, the assistant coaches would do other things. So, and I don't think that was like, I don't know how long he's been doing that. I can just say that I know I witnessed it. So Whether that's good or bad, I don't know.
That feels old school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a different kind of world. I think the NBA coaching just doesn't really work like that anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's
why
not even
would
just
you want it
NBA.
that
You
way?
see that on the college level.
Period.
You see that on the women
Yeah.
and men's side. Yeah, period. Coaches sometimes even passing the clipboard off to their assistants to come
Right.
into the huddle to change that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that was probably the biggest thing and Mike Brown, he obviously has collaborated as an assistant coach. He knows the importance of the person next to the guy. He's collaborated as a head coach. So I think that was probably the number one selling point in terms of differences between the two.
Is his bike going to be subject to congestion pricing when he rides to MSG? Like, this is what I've been thinking about this. Like, is the weather going to be good enough for him to ride that Harley to work?
That is a great question. He's going to have to worry about car doors flinging open and hitting him.
Yeah.
You know how many bikers I've almost taken out, man, just living in New York? Like, they have no chill. And I have a whole spiel on bikers, and I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to go all the way into it. But yeah, there's probably a good chance that he's not going to be able to ride his bike. It's probably not smart in New York City.
Yeah.
Well, you're walking to Madison Square Garden, so it's not too bad in terms of your destination. I'm sure you'll figure out a way to get there safely. I'm curious if you've heard anything about how the players have reacted to this, because one thing that is for sure, especially during his Golden State years and then going into Sacramento, he was a player's coach, and you saw how he was really into development. And we even saw those clips out of the Sacramento practice. He can be intense in the way that he, coaches folks up. But he does have this endearment with some players. And so I'm wondering if you heard around anyone talking about how they're taking this change.
I haven't heard anything, obviously, I haven't heard anything in terms of the hiring of Mike Brown. Obviously, there were a lot of players close with Thibbs, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. You saw all their parting messages. Karl Anthony Towns had been with them. I think they've all, I don't know how much say or conversations like Towns and Brunson had during this process. I'm sure they've talked to Brown already at this point, but yeah, nothing that I've heard. I'm curious to see how that works too, right? Because Thibbs notoriously, the guys that would play major minutes wouldn't have to practice. They wouldn't practice hard.
Yeah.
And it's out there, so I'm not like breaking news either. Josh Hart does not to practice. Well, no, this one I'm saying.
This one. Josh
Hart doesn't like to practice. So Mike Brown is very much into his guys practicing. I'm curious to see, I don't think it's going to be like that big of a deal, right? But it's going to be different.
Yeah. It's
going to be different for those guys. And maybe it's an easy transition if they don't play as many minutes as they did under Thibbs, right? Like maybe it's not as drastic because they're more fresh to practice. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a one thing, like the Knicks would practice, but I don't think it's safe to say or fair to say that like the guys who played heavy minutes were out there like giving like the type of practices we see from those Mike Brown clips.
Yeah.
Right.
What about on the court, man? Look, you've covered the league for a long time. You know what Mike Brown kind of does as far as offense and defense goes. How do you expect to see this stuff translate for the Knicks? I mean, I worry about this team taking a step back defensively because you're going from Tom Thibodeau to just anybody else. But Mike Brown seems like, okay, if anything, he can hold that floor where it was. But I think it's ringing more out of the offense that's the reason Tom Thibodeau is not here. Like, let's be honest here. It's not about the fact they couldn't defend with Brunson and KAT. It's because they couldn't outscore everybody with those two guys. So, like, what do you expect to see from this Mike Brown team?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think if you look at how the regular season ended, the Knicks finished with the 5th best offensive rating, but that was a little deceitful. Mm-hmm. From January 1st to the end of the regular season, they ranked 16th in how many ever games that is.
Yeah.
And again, Jalen missed a month in that time, but still, you watched in the playoffs, they struggled to score against teams that could defend. Yep. The Pistons made them work. The Celtics made them work. The Pacers made them work. Even in the regular season, when they did win games, any team that could defend hard, like they won the game, they found a way to win, but they had to work offensively. And this offense needs to find a way for things to come a bit easier. I'm not I'm not good at just saying, "Oh, Sacramento played fast."
Right.
So that means the Knicks are going to play fast.
Right.
Like, I just think you have De'Aaron Fox. Like, you're
It's
just going to
inherent.
play
I also
that
think
way?
Mike Brown
Right.
at this point,
Yeah.
he's got a track record where he's coached different styles. Like, this isn't a guy who's got, like, he's not some system wonk who's going to be in there. We're going to run the triangle in New York.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I do expect to see some takeaways from stuff that he's done previously, right? Like,
For
he
sure.
liked to run a lot of stuff on the elbow back in Cleveland. Obviously, they did a bunch of that in Sacramento. You could see where, oh, hey, Karl Anthony Towns, maybe he's got the ball more in his hands up there, you know, and facilitating some. So
he's not the playmaker of Sabonis, but he's not far
Right.
away. Yep.
Absolutely.
So you can see a lot of
But
that stuff.
to me, the biggest thing is going to be, how do you get that 3-point volume up from Karl Anthony Towns, right? Like, where are the creative ways? And it's going to come down. And James, look, man, you guys, you and Fred were all over this. Jalen Brunson and KAT don't really play together when they're on the court. And if Mike Brown could just get those guys to do the dance, you know, then the Knicks are in business. And I would say probably are the favorites to come out of the East, especially when you look at, you know, how many teams are going to be down. But that seems to be like the big hang up, right?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is getting them to, and it's not like it wasn't like there was some type of tension or anything. It's just two different drastic styles in the way that Tibbs played, like sometimes very ISO heavy. And I think getting them to play in flow and unison a bit more will be very important. Maybe integrate Mikal Bridges more as a ball handler, assuming he's back next year. I think that's the big thing. Like, defensively, I just don't think this team's ever going to be like a premier defense. Like, as long as the roster kind of is what it is, I think they kind of top out as at best good. Like, I think they can have good moments because they have some really good defenders. But they also have some flawed defenders. So offensively, to me, the big thing is finding ways to pick up the pace a little bit. But I also just think, like, it's just not how Jalen plays. And how do you
get some easy buckets, man? Like, somebody needs an easy bucket every now and then.
Yes. And maybe if he can push Mikal to be more aggressive going to the hole, they need to find ways to generate extra points, not just off turnovers and stuff like that. But Mikal shoots a lot of mid-range jumpers. Like, can you get to the line more and get fouled and ones? And they got to find ways to kind of get guys in their spots and get guys going downhill a little bit more.
Assuming he's with the team. We do know that as of last week, he could have signed an extension. Haven't heard much about that. And then, of course, the Knicks also got Gershon Yabusele. Talk to us a little bit about these free agency moves that the Knicks are on right now.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with Mikal. Yeah, he was eligible to sign the extension for $154 million or $156. I can't remember. And he hasn't yet. I don't know if it's been offered or if they're kicking the can down the road to see how everything else plays out, or if they're in disagreement on the money, right? Like, I don't know what's going on now. I just know that, to my knowledge, he hasn't signed it. And I wrote a piece when the regular season ended. I was kind of curious about, I called it kind of the Mikal Bridges dilemma, where the Knicks gave up so much for him. He didn't have a great year the first year in New York. Do they view him as a guy that's worth that 5 years, 156? And if they don't, the Knicks have been known to trade players if they can't reach an extension with them. On the flip side, did Mikal like his role? Did Mikal like guarding point of attack? Did Mikal like being the third guy, sometimes fourth guy in the offense? He got scrutinized like a star player because of what was traded for him. Did he like that? Right? Like, so I thought there were things to weigh from both sides. And either they're still weighing them or they're just in no rush because they've already agreed to it and they just haven't done it. So I just know he hasn't signed it. As it pertains to Clarkson,
before we leave Bridges, I want to ask you, what would you put the odds at that he's not with it? I mean, again, we're guessing here, but if he's not with the team next year, like, you feel like this, I mean, he's a major piece that they could trade away. They're never going to get the draft capital that they got or that they sent out, but they could get a player or two if they decide to move him. I mean, like, this is kind of a big deal, I think, for the Knicks. Like, do you expect him to be there for the season?
If they want to try to find some wiggle room, you look at him and he's the easiest, just given that he has 1 year left on his deal. And if you want a little bit more depth, that would be the way to do it. And could you look at him as maybe like not redundant to some players they have, because he does do a little bit more and a little bit less than some guys, but yeah,
it becomes a luxury.
Do you look at it as a luxury? And we just saw what Desmond Bane went for, and I'm sure that was based off also what Mikal went for. I'm not sure that his value plummeted. I mean, if that's just what the 3-and-D wings are going for, while I do think Bane's better, I still think if you told me the Knicks could get like 2 picks and a player or 2 picks and 2 players or something, like I wouldn't be totally shocked.
Could they get LeBron? This is where I'm taking you, James. I actually think it would be kind of sick if the Knicks got LeBron. Mikal Bridges, like, he's up for this extension, could be an extended trade. Like, I feel like Mikal fits perfectly into the timeline that the Lakers are now on.
Yeah. I've heard that that's fun chatter. I've heard that there's been nothing there right now. I will also say that I just can't see LeBron ending his career in New York.
Yeah, I can't
like
either.
That what's you disagree? Dave?
I disagree. And it's funny because I think our brains all go to Cleveland, right? Makes sense, right? The 1 seed last year, they could obviously use LeBron. Like it would be a seamless story. He could maybe finish his career with the potential championship in Cleveland. Wow, what a book. But LeBron has had this weird flirtatious relationship with the Knicks. Like, and as a matter of fact, like, I think every great player in the NBA, they kind of have this thing about New York. And when they play there, you know, they take it up a notch. I feel like if he was going to leave the Lakers and it's not Cleveland, it would only be the Knicks. I think that's the only other option. Because remember, he gets to control where he goes.
I think the only
Dallas
other option
likely.
is retirement.
Dallas. Too. James.
Oh, I like retirement too.
Oh, I like retirement too.
Retirement is the other option.
But Dallas is interesting too. I mean,
his best friends are there. They're waiting for him.
All your buddies are there. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like if he went to the Knicks, that team is in the finals. And if he goes to Dallas, you know, they're better than they are right now. But I don't think it's a finals team.
When you say that, who are you giving? All right, when you say they're in the finals, who are they giving up? Who are the Knicks giving up?
Right. I think like if you get into the money, like it depends on what Mikal Bridges winds up at, like number wise, but you may have to lose Josh Hart. You know, like once you get into the details of the fake trade, it does start to like diminish the fun of the fake trade.
And I would also say LeBron historically is one of the best defenders ever. LeBron's not a good defender now.
He was pretty good last year, but the expectation that he can do it for that long, it'd be tough with him and KAT.
Right. And then, so there's that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Has Mike Brown coached him twice or once?
I feel like it was.
Was it only once? Mike Brown went back to Cleveland. I just can't remember.
Cleveland, but I thought they got together.
I think it was.
But I don't know if that was right before.
Now I'm going to have to look up Mike Brown's coaching
career.
Because
Mike Brown got fired from Cleveland, I think this year 2 of his second stint in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look. So
he had him in the initial stint, and then Mike Brown went back 13-14 season.
And Mike Brown only did 1 year.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
So that was right before LeBron came back. So
he's only coached him once.
Okay.
So, and I mean, do we know if that's the reason he didn't coach him twice too? Right? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I think LeBron. I can't remember who pitched this. Maybe it was on the Ringer. I like the idea of like a Kawhi LeBron swap. They both get to stay in LA.
Right. It's right down the street.
Still kind of change of scenery.
Different arena. I don't see LeBron. Yeah. That's the thing I don't see is LeBron playing for the Clippers. I think that is something that does matter also in the NBA. It's kind of the opposite of Knicks.
Brand.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I will say this. Listen, James, we also have to, Dave goes into these fake trades. We recently talked about Cleveland. Cleveland has apparently come out and said they're not quite as interested in this storybook ending that we've described. So this is an exercise on this pod that we have to get Dave off the LeBron to big city, big story. But I love the optimist in Dave because
it's the East. I want to see him in the East. If LeBron
needed a marketer or a brand person, Dave's got him. Dave's got
100%, 100%. And I'm with you, Z. Like, yeah, we got to talk about this stuff. I get it. And Dave loves it.
Yeah.
I just like, if I'm LeBron, I'm like looking at like Dallas or Houston to save money on tax.
I'm not sure. Listen,
let
me take us off the rails here. We're going to get back to the Knicks, because this is a characteristic of what LeBron has done to this entire free agency, is just put this like cloud over it.
Right. Well, that's why they put out the
saying he's going
Zena.
back. Exactly. That's what they're doing. Again, marketer Dave, another hat that he wears. But let's get back to the Knicks, at least to close this out, because while there are dreams potentially of a LeBron-like person coming to get them into the finals, that's the main question on Knicks fans' minds. What is it going to take to get us to the promised land? If Tom Thibodeau, that got us the closest we've ever been in our history to getting back to the finals, is Mike Brown going to be enough? Is Yabusele going to be enough? Like, what do the Knicks fans have to look forward to that could potentially get them in a better position next year than they were this year?
I think there's a couple things. The possibility of a different type of offensive system, where we kind of talked about earlier, where things aren't as hard for them to make things happen. Like, they were so good last year because Jalen Brunson made things happen. And he was so good. And Karl Anthony Towns was so good, not because the kind of flow of the offense presented that. The other thing is, well, yes, they added guys who aren't necessarily big name free agents, and Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele. That is kind of what they needed, though. They struggled to get points off the bench consistently. They struggled with his shot creator. Deuce McBride was really the only guy that could do something off the bench, off the dribble. And he's more of a pull-up jump shooter as opposed to getting to the rim. You add Jordan Clarkson, again, more of a shooter, but he can create his own shot. Yabusele had one. I'm not going to go and say Yabusele is a stretch big. He had one good year shooting threes, but he has the possibility to do it, can guard across the board. So they are deeper than they were last year. And I think the Jordan Clarkson thing surprised me and really fell into their lap. Like, they were able to add 2 legitimate rotation pieces with the funds of a team that probably could only add 1. And it was also surprising because Jordan Clarkson's represented by Rich Paul, and the Knicks are a CAA conglomerate. And to me, I don't know. I've always heard that the relationship wasn't the best between those two sides, but it worked out. And I think the Knicks kind of hit a home run given there's financial limitations. Like, those are 2 like solid NBA players that they added to their bench. So now you look at the bench, whether you want to say it's Mitchell Robinson or Josh Hart off the bench, one of those guys with Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson, and Yabusele, like, that's 9 guys. You have some young guys that have some intrigue, and Kolek and Dadier and Huck Porty, who you can maybe sprinkle in there and help them come along. So also the other thing is the East obviously is not the same as the East last year. Cleveland, Cleveland, people make fun of Cleveland, but the Knicks couldn't beat Cleveland last year. And Boston's going to obviously have a gap year. Milwaukee, who the hell knows? Like, they're a wild card.
They have nobody to dribble.
They have nobody that can dribble. Atlanta is really, really intriguing. Are they title contenders yet? I don't know. We have to see. Orlando, same thing. Like, they scrapped together like so many injuries and still found themselves in a favorable position by the end of the year. And then they add Desmond Bane. So, like, that's good. And then Detroit, right? Like, Detroit's coming. They've kind of almost brought back the same team, but different faces, different pieces. Another year of experience. They got to find out. And I actually like their idea of not like swinging for the fences. Like, if I were them, I'd want to figure out if last year was like real.
Yeah.
Like, there was Cade and a bunch of role players, and they got this like, all right, well, let's figure out if this is legit one more time before we do that. There's another team I'm missing that's somewhat interesting. Philly. Listen, I know we all.
It's always the same, though.
Yeah, it's always the same. Like, it's if they're healthy, right? Like, they have like on paper a good team, and I really like Edgecombe.
Yeah,
but how many games does Embiid play? How many games does Paul George play? Like,
feels like we're getting Hawks Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's what I'm guessing right now.
I feel like, it's either Hawks or Orlando for me.
I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to, it's going to be a weird year, but I think it's going to be fun.
I agree. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of good young teams. I love where the league is. People can say what they want. There's so many fun, interesting teams.
This was the most fun season. James, like, we've known each other now for a long time doing this. This was the most fun season I've ever had, man. The games are so good. There's a lot of good story. It's awesome. Yeah.
Even the bad teams had like 1 or 2 fun players, like outside of Brooklyn. Sorry, no offense. But
That's not true. We like Cams.
We like Cam Thomas, and we like that feisty team. But
I like Cam Johnson, but I'm not like Cam Johnson's on TV. Let me turn on the Nets. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how he plays. All right. You know what I mean?
I feel Cam Thomas was like that though. He was fun.
Yes, he was
explosive
until he got that injury, and then
Cam Thomas is like, this is how I view Cam Thomas. Text me when he's hot. Yes. Like if Cam Thomas has 22 in the second quarter, shoot me a text and say, hey, turn the Nets on. I don't know if I'm watching it from the beginning to wait and see if Cam Thomas is getting hot. Because it can
you
get
need your notifications on for Cam Thomas. I got you.
Mini Steph in that regard.
There you go. Well, I know what else is a lot of fun is reading and keeping up with all of your Knicks coverage over at The Athletic. So you guys go read him. James, you'll be at Summer League, right?
Yes, I'll be out there from the 8th until the wee hours of the 15th. So I'll see you guys out there.
That's a long stretch in Vegas, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to get,
Yeah, we're not going to get into it.
No,
Don't
it's
worry.
going to be fun. Can't wait to see you, man.
Yeah, you guys too. I can't wait.
We'll be having some live recordings, so definitely just find your way to the set to hang out with Dave and S and Andrew. But appreciate you taking the time to break down this new addition to the New York Knicks. And, you never know. Next show, we might determine another place that LeBron James might end up. And you guys are just going to have to stay tuned for that. But if you like this conversation, make sure you go like and subscribe wherever you're listening right now. But on behalf of James and Dave DuFour, I'm Zena Keita. Appreciate you guys tuning in to NBA Daily. We'll talk to you guys soon.